everyone. Thanks for tuning in to Turn of the Stars. I'm Andrea Klim, and my guest today is Amy Shapiro, and she is welcome, Amy.
Hi, everybody. So happy to be here. Thank you for the invitation, Andrea.
Absolutely, absolutely. I'm so glad to have you back on the show. It's been since 2012 when we recorded Nevermind.
It feels like a lifetime ago.
I know, and the South Node in Sagittarius, there you go.
We had a really great time
together.
Yeah, Jay Hickey joined us for that. It was wonderful. And now I'm working with his brother, Donnie, on Izzy's other book. Yes.
Wow, wow. Well, Amy is a holistic astrotherapist, and she was a student, lifetime student of Isabel Hickey, and that was my very first book, A Cosmic Science. And yes, A Cosmic Science by Isabel Hickey, a spiritual astrologer, incredible, incredible lady in spirit now. And we can really feel her here today as we talk about her lifelong work for humanity. And so, Amy, we're talking about Izzy's book that Amy published. It's here, let me bring it forward so everybody can see. It is all right. Such an important time for us to be saying it is all right.
Boy, that message has never been more important. Absolutely. So would you like me to share my screen now? And we're going to cover a few basics we thought you all would enjoy hearing about, because, you know, there's so much activity going on in the heavens right now. And this actually shows the moment we're in for this presentation. And Andrew and I got together at 10 a.m. and I was fascinated to see the Sabian symbol for the 11th degree of Aquarius rising. And I love this message for all of us. During a silent hour, receive new life-changing inspiration. And I can tell you, I have spent many silent hours with Isabel's book, and it has given me so much inspiration that it's really a joy to be able to share that with others. Anything you want to comment on before we move on?
Well, let's see here. I was confused.
I'm going to make this a little bigger.
I'm so glad you tell me what day it is, because I just moved everyone and I am kind of topsy-turvy.
Well, let me comment then. I want to point out a couple things, because this is where the energies are right now. And we know the sun has gone into Sag. It's late Sag now, 25, near Mercury at 23. And the fire dynamics are very powerful. And Sag is a sign of inspiration and aspiration and hopefulness and optimism. And of course, in this pandemic, where we now have the vaccine coming, and some of these legal issues are starting to get resolved, there is reason for hope and optimism. And it's fortified by Mars at 21 and Eris at 23 Aries, trining this powerful conjunction of the Sun and Mercury, which is a...
Yeah, I wanted to say for those who don't understand what a trine is, this is beautiful. This is harmony. This is a flow of energy that is inspiring and supportive. And it just is supportive of where we're at.
Exactly. It's very uplifting, and it's opening the doors for all kinds of possibilities for everyone. Whether you have planets at those degrees or not, doesn't matter. If you do, then you'll feel it even more accelerated. And it's, to me, a mitigating energy for this ongoing long-term set of harsh squares we've been experiencing and still are, of these Capricorn energies, now with the moon there, to the Eris and Mars conjunction in Aries. We've been living with dynamic tension that is like living in a pressure cooker, and people have needed to ventilate, needed to find safe, constructive ways to express the frustration and the buildup of just frustration is probably the best word I can use. And so this trine of the Sag energy to the Aries energy is really so uplifting now. It's really kind of like the light at the end of the tunnel vibration, I think.
I see it as a foundation for each of us to really realize our inner desires and needs and wants
Yeah,
and to act on them. It's supportive of that.
exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
And there is a great support of with the second house involved there. I would say there's a great support of it's like our values, our deepest values, and it's not so much the material world, it's spirit, because fire is spirit.
Yeah.
Mm.
Absolutely. Isabel used to say, she taught us all the time, wherever Aries is in your chart is your personal starting point. And so this is the chart of the moment we're in right now for this presentation. And so this Aries energy in the second house, touching upon values, the things that we hold dear, our ability to be free in spirit, in our own self-awareness too, and self-consciousness. And the other thing worth pointing out is Venus is newly in Sag also. And that touches us on a heartstring level that, we do feel like there's reason for hope, and it is lifting our spirits. And it's opening the heart chakra to love and to giving, to look at what can we give, not just receive, because Sag is about abundance and about generosity, and also about honesty and candor. Are we being honest with ourselves? Are we being honest with each other in our lives? And the desire for that honesty is very strong right now.
Yeah, especially with the node squaring Neptune, and people are so confused about what the truth is.
There you go. That's a really good point, Andrea. Neptune at 18 Pisces in a square to the south and north nodes. People don't know what to believe.
Yeah.
And Neptune in Pisces, to me, this is sort of like a global refugee problem. For a long time, we've had problems to deal with the refugee crisis of certain war-torn pockets and pockets of great economic disadvantage. But now, because of this pandemic, we're all having an experience of what does that mean to be a refugee, to need to seek safety, to need to seek sanctuary, to need help from other people. And it's deeply humbling. And I think that is what Neptune and Pisces is seeking to instill in all of us, a more humbling awareness that none of us can do it alone. We are all in this together. We are all part of the greater whole, and we do need to help each other.
Yes.
And it's especially meaningful at this moment, and we're going to be looking at the next chart too, as we're getting ready for some powerful energies to shift out of Capricorn into Aquarius, and we'll talk a little more about that too.
Yes.
So let's move along here. And here we are. We recently had the solar eclipse. A lot of folks were, excited about this, and indeed, I think it was very exciting.
Yes.
Because of not just the moon and sun together at 23, but look at the lineup. Very close semi-sextile to Pluto, perfect trine here to Eris.
And Mars.
And Mars, super close, perfect trine to Mercury in that solar eclipse. It's kind of a repeat of what we've said about how uplifting the energy is right now.
And what that means to the layman, that solar eclipse here with the sun and moon and Mercury and South Node, means that there is so much from the past that's coming up that is to be shared and to be acknowledged and understood. And it's so important because there's so many gifts in the past that is going to help project us forward. Which is the North Node in Gemini. So, Amy, this is just in the last, month or so that we've been reunited, so to speak. And so it's so exciting. I mean, fire energy is just, it was opposite my sun in my chart. So it's pretty exciting, and
It
so
is.
pleased. Yeah.
And, and since you mentioned the North Node in Gemini, it's kind of like a little singleton because it's all by itself at the bottom of the chart. And I think it bears reflecting that we're all on our own little islands of our inner worlds right now because of this pandemic, people needing to hunker down,
Yeah.
And so the fourth house really has to do with your home and your inner life. It's the bottom of the chart. It's the soul of our being. It's also our ancestral lineage, our family heritage. And I notice a lot more people are very interested in genealogy and where do they come from? And, how did we get here from that really big perspective? So there's a lot of introspection at this
Yeah.
time, which is
Well,
very healthy.
it's interesting what I didn't mean to interrupt you,
Yeah.
but what Izzy said about the fourth house, the IC, the Inum Coeli, is that it is the roots of our being. And Gemini is all about gathering knowledge
Yeah,
and doing the education. I mean, Gemini's food is knowledge.
right.
And but what she said about the Inum Coeli, or the IC, or the lowest point in the chart, is that it is what projects us up out into the world. It is from the beginnings of who we are, that we are formed and we are made and we are shaped. And so we're going back, the North Node, we're going back to look at that to say,
Back
okay,
to source.
this is who I am. This is where
Yeah.
I come from.
Wow. That's so profound, Andrea, on so many levels. Because if you think of this idea of going back to the source, how do we know where we come from and what does that matter? Well, we're in a life and death moment on the planet right now. This pandemic is certainly causing all of us to be reflective of that, not to take life for granted.
Yeah.
And it just so happens that the fourth house, the bottom space of the wheel, is also known as the end of life house. And so people are really reflecting on, okay, if I only had today, if I only had this year, what would I need to, what would I need to do or learn to be complete? And I think a lot of people are having those reflections, what's important for me to, and who's important for me to connect with in order to feel complete in this life.
Yes, yes. And you know what? I really think the Gemini is networking with those of like mind that hear us.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
it's so important that we hear each other.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. And Gemini is the sign of twins, meaning, your kin, the people that you relate to. And
Yes.
so a lot of us want to touch base with people from our past who matter to us and we can relate to them. So it's a good thing to do.
Yes.
Okay.
Ah, there she is. Look at those eyes.
Now this may be a new photo for anybody tuned in because I only rediscovered that I had this photo recently when I was going through a pile of papers and saw that Isabel's daughter, Helen, who remained a dear friend of mine, sent me this article that she had saved for many decades. It was in the East-West Journal, and it was exactly 45 years ago that it came out on December 15. Oops, I wrote 2020. It was 1975.
Wow. One day from today.
Exactly, 45 years ago. And this is such a beautiful picture of Isabel, as you can see on the screen. It shows, she had these, I wish it was in color, because she had the most absorbing, deep hazel eyes. And she just looked right through your soul, right through you into the center of your soul. And you comment on that lovely brooch she was wearing. She'd love to have a starburst brooch to remind us, get centered, go within, because that's where the light is, and we can all radiate. We can all be a source of light and inspiration. And I did highlight, yeah.
Her eyes remind me of my mother's eyes. My mother had those kind of eyes. And when I look at those, I see my mother's eyes.
Beautiful,
Yeah,
beautiful.
yeah,
Yeah.
Beautiful.
So one of the passages in this article, before we get on to the book,
Yeah.
really struck me to share. It's a couple paragraphs because it was a question and answer interview with her. And since we're in the week leading into, we're in the Christmas season, the holiday season, she talks about the Christmas story, and I thought it'd be so special to share it with you all. She says, I think one of the most fascinating things was the Christmas story. It's not understood by most people. Think about it for a minute. What was the very beginning of that story? It was when an angel came and told Mary she was to conceive the Christ. And the way she answered, behold, the handmaiden of the Lord, be it done unto me according to thy will. When that Christ principle is conceived in us, the first thing we have got to do to bring the thing to birth or expression is to give up our self-will. It was a long time before the conception of that Christ until the Christ child was born. People get impatient. They're not willing to wait through the darkness. Yet what was the first thing that had to happen before that baby was born? Every woman who's ever had a baby had to go through the same thing. Until you break your water, you have to break the water, and that is how you get free and from being completely taken over by emotions. And then the Christ in you, the Christ child in us, can be born.
Wow.
And she said, why is the Christ child depicted as being born in a stable when there's no room in the inn? That no room in the inn started to play in my consciousness one day. Go into any tavern, any lounge, if you get completely, because in the pandemic, no one's going into taverns. You get completely stuck in glamour. There isn't any room for that Christ child. There is no room in the inn. You have to go into the cavern in your own heart. I think it's very interesting that only two kinds of people came to the nativity. The shepherds, who were the simple people out on the hill who weren't all fuddled up with a great deal of mind stuff, and those who had gone far beyond the personal, who knew, the wise men like astrologers. And that's worth remembering. When I attend a Christmas Eve service, I like to wear my shirt that's full of stars to remind everybody that the wise men were astrologers.
You know what I loved about Izzy was that she went into the churches, and I never forget this because I want to do what she did. She went into the churches and the temples, and she talked to the priests and the pastors, and she aligned with them because no matter what we believe, we're all one.
Yeah.
And I love that about her, and that just touched my heart.
A lot of clergy came to her.
Yeah.
She had a lot of close friends in her circle. So let's get into our main topic. It's all related, and it's all right.
Yes.
Isabel, no, this is so fascinating, the connection, because this East-West Journal interview with her from December 1975, she was writing the book at that time. Yes, Andrea?
What is her middle name?
I think I'm not sure if it's Mary or Muriel. I'll have to ask.
It's my middle name, Mary.
It might be, but I don't remember exactly. I'll have to ask.
Yeah, because that's my middle initial, and it's Mary.
Aw,
we have a lot in common, you and her and I.
Yes, we sure do.
We really do.
A good feminine archetype trinity.
Yes, yes.
But she was writing this book when she had that interview, because the book came out in 1976, the very next year. And she published this book as her last book after her two astrology books, because this one combined a cosmic science with her Pluto Minerva book. And then this was her third book. And the reason she wrote it is because she understood that so many people were looking for answers that go beyond astrology, go beyond the chart. Yes. And she didn't want any of her students feeling that every answer is in the chart and that you're bound by the chart. So she wanted us to understand there's so much beyond astrology, and this is where the spiritual philosophy comes in. And she wrote so much in the book about her philosophy, and I highlighted just a couple of sections here. Since you're an astrology show, I thought people would like to hear a little bit of what she said about astrology. And I'll make this a little larger. Everybody can see it on their own screens. You could also later on pause this when you're watching it back. Astrology's true purpose is to help us find our way out of dependence on external influences so we can be free souls guided only by the light of our own inner being. Our birth chart shows where we are in our evolutionary progress. It shows what we have as equipment for our present journey and the talents we've gathered in other lives through experience. It shows the weaknesses in our character that can cause us difficulty until we overcome them. And we are not unbound. This is where it touches on past lives. We do not come unbound into this livingness. The chart shows what we have to work on in this lifetime, what grade we are in the planetary school. And that's how she viewed Earth, as a planetary school. I'll skip forward a little bit. She says, I can say from experience that astrology can be an aid in our ongoing. It shows where the road is smooth and you can proceed without strain, where the road will be rough and you have to slow down and proceed with caution. It shows if the road is washed out and you want to take a detour, and where emotional storms are coming on the horizon. And so if squalls are coming, it's smart to steer your lifeboat wisely. Let's see, did I skip some? Here we go.
Yeah, I think you're doing awesome.
Okay. I want to go on to a little bit of what she says about aspects. When astrologers talk about aspects, it's the discordant or harmonious contacts between the energies. They show the wise use or abuse of energies in past lives. And so if they're mutable signs, they're faults that are just beginning to manifest, and they can be changed by right thinking. Cardinal sign harsh aspects are faults of a just past lifetime and require changing your action. And the fixed sign harsh aspects, those are the most difficult, because that's where the entity has set up personal will against divine will or higher self will for many lives. And that can create problems that really have to be solved by giving up your will, a real surrender.
Right, in many layers, right? Many, many layers.
Yes, many layers. And that's very apropos for right now, where we're having Uranus in a fixed sign and Saturn and Jupiter coming into a fixed sign. She talks about psychology. It's really worth getting the book if you haven't got it, because she really touches on so many things that astrologers need to understand. But we want to skip up to what she says about the Piscean age here, because this is so relevant to right now.
Yes.
We've been in the Piscean age for 2,000 years. Now, remember, when she wrote this, it was 45 years ago, okay? Pisces is a water sign, and its ruler, Neptune, rules the ocean. The avatar of the Piscean age was Jesus.
Yes.
All through the New Testament, symbols portrayed the age of Pisces, and she gives some examples about fishes and loaves of fish. Now the Aquarian age is coming in. The key word of Aquarius is I know. It's an air sign and deals with a mind. To the faith of the Piscean age will be added knowledge. We will know why we have certain belief systems. Many therapy groups springing up around the country teach us to have dominion over our thoughts and feelings. And she was at the forefront of the consciousness movement. One of her favorite sayings was, consciousness is reality. These are Aquarian concepts being brought to human consciousness. It is a group conscious age, the age of true brotherhood. But, there's the big but, we're in the process of cleaning up all the evils of the past.
Yes.
Before true brotherhood can come. And you can substitute for the word brotherhood humanitarianism.
Yes.
Because we always want to be gender inclusive.
Yes, absolutely.
There's always a necessity to clear out the poisons before the body can be healthy. Until the evils come to the surface and are recognized, they cannot be transmuted. every area of living, collectively and personally, is being challenged, and what is wrong is coming to light. I think that was quite profound. And we've been seeing this detoxing on the planet for quite a
Yes.
while.
Yes, and I want to just kind of add there is that it is all right. Is so important right now for everybody to know it is all right, because we're feeling on such incredible levels change that is warp speed, and it's overwhelming. And I've had so many people on Facebook, on Instagram, text me and say, am I okay? Am I okay? And I say, just go with it, flow with it, flow with it. The more you fight it, the harder it is.
Yeah. And Isabel, by the way, was so prophetic. Back 40 plus years ago, she was predicting this moment in history.
Yes.
She did talk about a time at the turn of the century. She said the vibration on the planet was going to speed up to such a pace. She said, you have no idea how things are going to accelerate. And we didn't have any idea. We couldn't imagine how it was going to speed up. And she said there were going to be a time when there were going to be a lot of souls lifted up.
You know,
And,
Amy, I'm also a shamanic practitioner besides an astrologer, and it's just my path. And I do a lot of work with trapped souls, which is my book that I published. And everybody I see right now, I can see their lineage, their spirits that are supporting them or are with them. And it's like the veils there's no veils.
right. They've completely dropped.
Yes,
They've totally dropped.
There's no veils between our world and the spirit world. And it's
there's many souls, many spirits like Isabel, who are very busy right now on the inner planes, helping the souls who are departing to transition. And this is certainly not the way any of us would want to see our loved ones go under these circumstances, which is so deeply painful and very humbling to us. It gives me a little bit of comfort to know that there are souls, bright lights on the inner levels that are helping our loved ones in this time of transition. So, if that gives people comfort, I hope it does.
And we are on this earth, any being on this earth right now, we are merely conduits of that energy. And so whatever we can do, and it's all, I'm going to use the word God directed, because I believe in that creative light.
Yeah.
And however you see God, however that appears to you, or Jesus or Mary or any of those energies. In the last 2 months, I have seen Jesus nearly every single day.
That's beautiful.
And so, like Izzy
Andrea, could you comment, because you said something so profound earlier, on the graphic symbol of this cover, because I think it's really something to meditate on, and you said it so well.
Well, I am 5th generation Abenaki. My great-great-grandmother was Papin, and so I've inherited some bloodline of the native traditions, and I'm trained in shamanic practices and healing. And this symbol right here is the same as the medicine wheel. And it's so profound and so important, so comprehensive. This symbol here, if you look at it, it is acknowledging the directions of the earth, the north, the north, the south, the east, and the west. And not, this is so interesting, because yesterday, I'm going to just kind of veer off here a little bit and we'll come back. I was walking out my home and to get in my car, and I was there was a man going up and down the road, and he stopped. And I'm in a retirement village, which is Soulier, and the villas in Florida. And he stopped and he said, "Are you the astrologer that's moved into the neighborhood?" And I said, "Yes." He goes, "I'm the astronomer in the neighborhood." And I said, you know, there and started a conversation. And he said, "Copernicus separated astrology and astronomy." And I said, "Well, in my opinion, that should have never happened." Because when I teach astrology, the language of astrology, I do not separate them. I teach astronomy as well as astrology without even knowing, that I'm doing that. That's just natural to me. And in astrology, we talk about the north, the south, the east, and the west, and how that is so important and what that means. And this symbol is, it pops out at you. It's filled with light.
Yeah.
And in so many levels, on so many fronts, in so many directions, this is a symbol of ascension.
And if you look at it in a meditative frame of mind, you can see the brown come to the surface and the light recede. And then
Yes.
you have a beautiful flower
Yes.
that is like, each flower is, each petal is almost like a little heart. It feels like it's opening the heart chakra. And it truly is about the wheel of incarnation. Yes, we have time, we have space, we have consciousness, we have emotions, soul, spirit, body, but it's all in motion.
And the number, if you count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, the number of infinity, the circle of life, it all is connected to the macrocosm, to the microcosm, the microcosm to the macrocosm. So
Yes.
we are a reflection.
And look at this, that you do literally have the infinity symbol.
Yes.
Multiple times in this image. There's so much to gain by this image. I think it's quite beautiful. And it's just like that mandala that she wore in her brooch. It's about getting to the center of our beings where we can be pure channels of light and love.
Yeah, that symbol pops to me, and it really, the word that I got intuitively and was ascension, that we all are at this time spiritually in a process of ascension, and it's a wonderful thing.
I want to add too, because you're reminding me of this, Isabel would say about the title, she capitalized the word all, but she used to say, use the title as its own mantra. And in your mind, say it over and over again, but emphasize each word separately. It is all right. It is all right. It is all right. It is all right.
All right.
Yeah, and you can, play with that as a mantra, emphasizing different words in the title, and it's really very powerful.
And I want to just add, in support and respect for the gentleman that I met yesterday, the astronomer, Frank Ancona. He's a university teacher of astronomy, and he's doing a group, our neighborhood, inviting the whole group to watch the alignment of the Jupiter and Saturn into Aquarius on December 21st.
Here we go.
And out in the field here where it's no lights, so we can see. And so there is divine intervention happening on this earth everywhere if we can just face the light.
I'm so glad you brought that up again, Andrea, because I wanted to touch on that analogy we were talking about earlier. There's a lot of people feel like, oh, there's just this impenetrable split between astronomy and astrology. when in fact, really, they're kind of two sides of the same coin in a different way. And one of the analogies that I love to share with people is that, to me, astronomy is similar to anatomy. It's all the parts of the body, the mechanics, and how they work together to function as
Yes.
a whole system. But you can think of astrology as dance, where the psyche and the soul expresses itself through the body and can interpret meaning and emotion and spirit. And so a dance is what brings that meaning and joy and sense of ascension through the body, you know?
Yes. Yes, absolutely. I was.
And so, and it is an interpretive art. Astrology is an interpretive art, just like dance is an interpretive art. And I think this is where some people get hung up. They think that astrology is trying to compete with astronomy as a science, when, although I think we rely on, excuse me, scientific principles, we will never vary from being an interpretive art. And there are as many ways to interpret the planets as there are astrologers doing it.
Yes.
Although we all have certain core principles that we adhere to.
And we all, you know, interesting with astrology, it is basically a map, and it is a directive, if you want to look at it that way, but it's just explaining the what, how, where, why, and we have the free will. So,
yeah,
you know, it's
exactly.
An incredible it's just incredible
system. For sure, it for sure is. And here's the chart of the conjunction, the solstice point. As you can see over here, the sun is 0 Capricorn, 0 minutes. So the actual solstice here on the East Coast, December 21st, about 10 past 5 in the morning. But we'll be feeling that 0 Capricorn energy all day. And what's so profound is the 0 placement of not just the sun. Mercury is exactly there at 0 degrees. And look at this, just one sign away. Jupiter and Saturn have both entered Aquarius. They will enter it before the solstice, but they are there still at 0 degrees on the solstice. And to me, this really is the sort of the bell ringing of the Aquarian age.
Yeah.
We only get this conjunction of Jupiter and Saturn every 20 years, but we don't always get it at such a remarkable point. We did have it in Libra. That was the last air sign I think we had it in 1981.
Yes.
Isabel talked about that conjunction as being an important conjunction for enlightened souls, awakened souls to come onto the planet. And to me, this is that, and at a higher level even, because it really says we're ushering in the Aquarian age consciousness, and any souls coming in now with this conjunction, they truly are full-fledged Aquarian souls, and they're going to speed up our evolution tremendously.
You know what's so interesting about this chart, I need to point this out, is that Mars is heading toward Taurus. It's here in Aries. And the song, The Age of Aquarius, says when Jupiter aligns with Mars, and it's going to be a square, so this is a time of incredible growth for humanity.
Yes.
Squares are so dynamic.
And that deserves its own show, Andrea, because
absolutely.
People will need to understand that energy as we're getting into it, because I've been saying to people ever since before the election, you know, not only are there's going to be a lot of legal shenanigans with the complicated Jupiter energies going on, but we're under siege. There's really no way to sugarcoat it. We are under attack and under siege with harsh Mars transits right up until the election. I'm sorry, until the inauguration.
Yes.
And you can see here it is on the 21st. It's just finished. It's about to conjunct Eris, 23 and 23, and square Pluto.
And
So,
what does that mean? Just so for the layman,
yes.
Amy.
Okay. Well, boy, that could deserve its own show on itself. But let me just say, Mars is the warrior planet. Okay. And so, on a positive scale, it's how we marshal our energies to fight injustice
Yes.
on the highest level, on the highest plane. Many people marshal their energies to fight something that might not be true injustice. It might be self-seeking, self-serving interests that can be harmful to others and, leave a wake of destruction. And that is the negative potential. We don't like to focus on the negative potential, but we can't pretend it doesn't exist.
That's right. Yeah.
Now, I do think that, with the vaccinations becoming available, it is a game changer, but people have to maintain their patience, their vigilance. They cannot assume that just because it's available, all of a sudden they can go back to whatever they thought, a normal life ought to look like. And so this sets up a very intense dynamic tension. We've been cautioned by the medical professionals that we are in for a dark, difficult month ahead because of a lot of reckless behaviors by people
Yeah.
who are in denial and are
Yes.
deluded into thinking that this pandemic somehow isn't real.
Yeah.
So
And
we're going to get a big slap of reality as Mars hits Eris and squares Pluto. Yeah.
what I wanted to say was to everybody, fear, be very aware that fear does not become stronger than love,
Yeah.
because fear is a pandemic in itself.
I would say let fear motivate you into
Yes.
appropriate action.
There you
Okay.
go. There you go.
Because with the Saturn and Jupiter in Aquarius, it is about science. It is about knowledge. It is about existential recognition of what is true. And so, the old cliche that the truth will set us free. So the more we can wrap our brains around the truth of what is happening on the planet and the need to be appropriate to the moment, that will really help us get through this. Because consciousness, as Isabel said, really is reality. And so whatever you dwell upon in your own consciousness, and each of our consciousnesses, is how we're going to get through this to the other side.
Yes.
So
Absolutely.
it's a very bright light in the middle
Yes.
of a dark time. And so we can anchor ourselves to that light. And this would be a good time for us to look at the universal prayer. I do want to mention before
Oh,
we move on to that anyone who wants
yes.
your own personal astrological interpretation based on Isabel's text, if you pop onto newagesages.com, you can go into the reports and you'll find it there. It was a
And
labor of love.
I'll put that on the YouTube description for anybody that wants to look there and find the link. I'll put a link there so you can click right through.
Absolutely. We didn't touch on Izzys chart. Here it is.
Oh, yes.
It's fun to
Yes.
see. And you know what I was noticing, Andrea? Right now, Uranus at 7 Taurus is opposing Isabel's Mars
Wow.
and forming a T-square with her Mars and Saturn. Isabel, like you, had Saturn in Aquarius. And so she's having a Saturn return. You're coming into a Saturn return. And this is about telling the truth and the correct use of astrology and the understanding of the importance of seeking to get our consciousnesses rightly aligned with higher truth.
Oh, this chart is absolutely beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. And I'm just a little bit overcome here. Because the connections that we share with Izzy, when you look at her chart here, and she had so many things in exaltation, meaning that
beautiful.
these planets, according to Ptolemy, where they were placed, they were an exaltation, which is the best thing you could have for your energy and to be.
I want to share something with you because you're reminding me, this is so important. That Jupiter Saturn conjunction that we were pointing out here at 0 degrees Aquarius, when you
Yes.
see where it falls in her chart, it's exactly trine her Venus. And I have said this to people so often because I hear it from people. When you pick up almost any of her books, whether it's her astrology book or Nevermind or It Is All Right, if you invite her into your consciousness, she will be with you. And she is quite a remarkable companion on the spiritual journey. And I feel like she wants us to let folks know that she's, you know, she used to say the reason why she chose the spelling of her nickname, Izzy, Issie, she said, because Izzy is. And that is what she put on her tombstone, Izzy is.
Aww.
And she still is very much.
And I can reassure everyone that what you're saying, Amy, in 1998, when I first started studying astrology, when my daughter was born, she was born in February 6, 1998, and it was her birth that opened up a door to astrology. It just, and I connected when I got a cosmic science. I became completely obsessed with studying it. I worked a full-time job and every night studying it. And she became one of my spirit guides.
Yeah.
And she showed me the Akashic records.
Oh,
and,
beautiful.
So it's so true that she does come. If you open your heart, she comes in.
And you can see the validation in her own chart of what a liberated, fully awakened spirit she was. The sun elevated in Leo in a beautiful trine to Uranus.
Beautiful. The signature of an astrologer.
Exactly. And Jupiter in Pisces shows the compassion. She had tremendous compassion. She did so much good for so many people and never sought any credit for it. And this was her clairvoyance, her Neptune and moon in Cancer. Her moon was exactly on my Uranus, and she truly was the divine maternal energy for me. But I wanted to mention that this Uranus opposing her Mars, I know she is busy. She is very busy on the inner levels, as I said earlier, helping with the transition of souls into the next dimension right now. And that's her Mars in Scorpio in the 12th house. She was a tremendous spiritual channel for healing.
An alchemist, an advocate, and she would help whoever she could to learn, realize what it, Mars in Scorpio, look at all the exaltations here. It's amazing.
Yeah, and it's not that this chart had no harsh aspects. When you see Saturn square Mars, she was a tremendous disciple. And she used to say over and over again, listen to the word disciple and discipline. If you want to be a spiritual disciple, you need discipline, because discipline is discipling in your life. So she was a great role model of a life lived with tremendous discipline.
And she would never, I would say with that square, she would never give up, ever give up. She would be there till the very end and beyond.
And it's important to mention this too. Isabel lived through the last pandemic.
Wow.
Because she was born in 1903. When that last pandemic came, she was a teenager and she was a young bride. And in Nevermind, she tells the story of what it was like in that pandemic. And so I know in my heart that that pandemic had a tremendous impact on her generation's getting on the spiritual path and recognizing the need for higher attunement.
Yes, absolutely. There was something that just passed me by there. We'll move on. And
okay, sure. Yeah. So You are going to, we want to share the universal prayer before we close because it's so powerful at this time, and you have it in front of you. I can keep it on the screen here. If you'd like to read it, before you read it, let me just say what she said about it, because I think it's important for people to hear her thinking, why this prayer mattered to her and why it mattered to her to share it with her students. This prayer is the invocating of the aid of the forces of light and is sent out daily by disciples everywhere. It can bring the light and love needed to save the planet from destruction. The forces of light have to be invited to come in and help. They will not interfere with our free will. The first verse invokes the Buddha, the Lord of Light. The second verse invokes the Christ consciousness, the Lord of Love. The third verse invokes the planetary hierarchy whose center is on the etheric levels over Jerusalem. And then she says the Jerusalem that will not pass away. So it's really on the etheric level. And then the fourth verse deals with humanity and to bring the power of light and love to earth. And that if enough of us around the planet will use this prayer, the planet can be lifted into the heaven it was meant to be.
Beautiful, absolutely beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful. So I'm going to go ahead and read the prayer. And this is titled the New Age Prayer. And it's from the point of light within the mind of God. Let light stream forth into the minds of men. Let light descend on earth from the point of love within the heart of God. Let love stream forth into the hearts of men. Let Christ return to earth. From the center where the will of God is known, let purpose guide the little wills of men. The purpose which the masters know and serve. From the center which we call the race of men. Let the plan of light and love and light work out, and may it seal the door where evil dwells. Let light and love and power restore the plan on earth. So let it be and help us to do our part.
Thank you, Andrea, for sharing that. I'm going to stop the screen share so folks can see us a little more enlarged here. And thank you again for inviting me to join you on your program. It's just a joy.
Thank you for being here today. And I'm really looking forward to a lot more interaction and joining together in support of the world. As astrologers, it's our job, as we know, to be here for humanity. And I want to say a huge thank you to Izzy for following her heart and what motivated her to bring love and light to this earth. And she was, there's a part of me that says salute.
I want to touch base on one last thing here. If somebody's going on to look for this book online, you may find it in the hardcover. It's out of print, but there are people who are selling the hardcover at insane prices, into the hundreds, multiple hundreds.
Wow.
So I want everybody to know, don't get confused. Look for the paperback, okay? It's a very modest price. I don't want anybody being taken advantage of to pay what they shouldn't.
I'm glad you said that. I'm glad you said that because there's so many misconceptions out there right now. And so that's a really important point.
Yeah, I know. Izzy, do you know that when Isabel brought this book out to the public, she only sold it for $10? And it's just about twice that now, about 45 years later. So we want everybody to know it's available, but not to pay crazy prices for it.
Yeah. Well, Amy, I want to say thank you so much for being here today. And anyone who's looking to purchase reports or contact Amy, you're at newagesages.com.
All one word, newagesages.com.
Perfect, perfect. And so everyone, thank you for joining us today for Turn to the Stars. And we hope you all stay well and turn your face to the light, just turn to the light when when the need is there, and
Yeah.
it's always there.
We believe in you and we love you and we thank you for joining us for this hour, and we'll look forward to seeing you all again.
And remember everyone, as I always say, turn to the stars.